I really believe that music, be it from our musician or if you bring in recorded music of someone's favorite artist and what have you, it can add definitely a memorable element to a funeral service. In this video, let's discuss the significance or the importance of music in a funeral service. I had a number of pieces played at my mom's funeral 25 years ago in '98, and probably 10 years after that, I sat down with another family member, people that had known us. They'd lived down the street from us when we were kids, and one of their parents had died. So when I sat with a family to make arrangements, and we got to the point where music was being discussed, the family said, well, we'd like you to play a lot of the same music that you played at your mom's funeral. And initially I thought they were joking, and I said, well, what did I play? Well, they told me. And they reiterated a number of the pieces that we played at Mary Ann's and said, we've always remembered them, we've always enjoyed them, and we'd like to have that played at our mom's funeral. So that's exactly what we did. So I really believe that music, be it from our musician or if you bring in recorded music of someone's favorite artist and what have you, it can add definitely a memorable element to a funeral service. And I think the more memorable a funeral service is, the more meaningful it becomes, and it also becomes more valuable in the eyes of the family and friends because it achieves the emotional purposes or needs that are required of a funeral service. It touches all the bases. We are proud to offer the services of Ross MacDonald as our musical director at both Westview and Northview. Ross has been tickling the ivories for a heck of a long time. I think he told me about 60 years now. So, boy, he sure knows what he's doing. And that means that Ross can play for a funeral service and take requests for any style or any genre of music, be it big band or dance or jazz, classical, hymns. It really doesn't matter. He's awfully darn good at playing those services, and he can play as a musical accompaniment to a soloist, or he can play with other musicians if they're utilizing various instruments that can be played at a funeral service. Ross, when I say Ross will take requests for any level of difficulty, I really mean what I'm saying there. And a good example was a number of years ago, I had advised a family as to how good Ross was, and they asked me to have him play such and such a piece. Well, I'd never even heard of this piece. And when I called Ross and said, hey, we've got a request for you, Ross, he asked, what is it? And as soon as I told him, he says, somebody really knows their music. And that intrigued me. I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, there's very few people on the planet that are even aware of that piece's existence. And he says it's a beautiful piece of music, but he says it's also extremely difficult to play. And when I asked him if he was able to play it, he, without hesitation, said, you bet I am. So the day of the service arrived, and I went in and listened to him play, and yes, it truly was a magnificent piece of music. And his fingers were dancing on those keyboards, and feet were dancing across the pedals, but he pulled it off. And after the service, that family actually tipped him $100 and said, we didn't think you could pull it off, but it was perfect. So that speaks well to the accomplished nature of Ross as a musician, but it also speaks to the role that music can play in a funeral service. And it can, I mean, we've spoken earlier about personalizing a funeral. This is another way that you can do that.